Veterans Eminary, and she's going to talk about resources in kind. Thank you, Aiden.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon. I'm going to get my slides on here. Can everyone see my slide deck there?
Yes, we can.
Great. As mentioned, my name is Deirdre Armstrong, and I'm the Associate Director of Community Partnerships for the National Veterans Intermediary. And I'd like to give a big thank you to Eric and Tony and Jim and everyone at VA for putting these events together. I've really enjoyed participating. I'm going to be talking today about how to think beyond traditional fundraising and how to identify resources you need, who might have them, and who might be willing to share them. NVI, the National Veterans Intermediary, exists to strengthen all communities with seeds of collaboration. Many of you on the call have already taken advantage of our collaboration funding, but we are more than just funding. We are working to connect communities with resources, whether those resources are in your own communities or available through national partners. We're planning our program for the next phase now, and we welcome your input. You can also sign up for updates like the upcoming launch of our classes with Psych Armor at our website, nvi.org. I'd like to start with a quote by the Stanford Sustainability Journal. I'll read it aloud for those of you who might not be able to see it. Collective impact efforts are most effective when they build from what already exists, honoring current efforts and engaging established organizations rather than creating an entirely new solution from scratch. I'd like to talk about how this seminal collective impact concept applies specifically to resources beyond financial grants and funding. Too often, we get stuck when it comes to fundraising because of substantial barriers to access. But if we reimagine that idea of contribution and engage stakeholders to contribute in new ways, we can build sustainability and increase our impact and establish a collaborative platform that will make our initiatives more attractive to funders in the future. I'm going to talk you through the traditional sources of funding and then lead you through options that may be available to you for no cost. I want to expand your concept of resources and show you how to access them. Let's start with an assessment of the current landscape. We've been at war for 17 years. Donors are more cautious. They want to see the data that measures the impact of their gift. And there's more competition for every single gift. Many funders have a misunderstanding that CVEBs are government organizations, which may cause hurdles to funding. We know you're frustrated. We all wish there was more money to go around. And we want to make sure that the money that is available goes to where it's needed most. So part of that challenge is to educate funders and stakeholders about your local military and veteran community needs. NVI is trying to do this as well. We are advocating for investment in collaboratives and CVEBs. I've listed some traditional funding sources here. There are several categories of grantors, and each organization within these categories has its own requirements, timelines, and donation limits. The bottom line is this: it takes time and investment to seek funding, and the reporting burden can be significant. And for all of these, you need to build in sustainability because the grants are for a limited period of time. Locally, you may also be competing with other social issues, but there's an opportunity to advocate for yourself into multiple funding streams, since veteran issues truly span the entire spectrum. Let's take a look beyond these traditional funding sources to identify other resources and other stakeholders who may be able to contribute. Everyone in our ecosystem relies on resources to run, but they also have resources to share. These traditional grant-making funding organizations have more than just money to offer. I recommend you start by surveying your community. Do you have a balanced mix of nonprofits, businesses, and government agencies? You may not have all of these in your collaborative, but this is a chance to invite new stakeholders into your work. These include those shown here and others across the civic landscape, such as law enforcement, public health, public education, and even transportation agencies. Let's take a look at examples of each type of stakeholder and look at the types of resources they may have and how you can use them. Before I dive in, I'd like to clarify my definitions. When I say infrastructure, I mean building the collaborative versus capacity building, meaning ensuring that you have the right mix of services when the population you serve needs them the most. For our purposes today, we're focusing on 3 types of nonprofits: philanthropic organizations, universities, and intermediaries like NBI. All of them have other assets beyond dollars that you can take advantage of. Things like subject matter expertise, tools, physical space, experts, shared learning opportunities, and training programs. In addition to infrastructure and capacity, these are great partners for advocacy and knowledge building. Next, let's take a look at how businesses within your community can contribute. By businesses, I mean national corporations, consulting firms, law firms, and smaller companies. We often think of businesses for cash donations and pro bono work, but they have so much more to offer. There's even a growing movement toward social impact investment. For example, in the real estate sector, some investors are providing social services to the communities inhabiting their buildings on a theory that a stable, healthy community increases the value of their properties over time. Imagine the opportunity for partnership. So now let's take a look at how you might be able to tap into resources through government agencies. We've seen 2 ways that local governments have provided funding outside of grants. One is to create tax levies to fund projects. This was successfully implemented in King County in Washington State. The other is to create actual budget line items to support the creation of a formal backbone organization. This is how the New York City Department of Veterans Services came into being, through the City Council's institutional support. Both local and federal governments also may be able to contribute subject matter expertise. They may be able to share service providers and open channels for advocacy. Both have a voice that can create urgency and convening power. If you're not sure where to start, there are a number of resources out there free of charge. You can go online today and download reports, data, and other resources to help you get a handle on the process, evaluation, and organizing concepts. These include the Collective Impact Forum, the Military Family Resource Institute at Purdue University, the Institute for Veterans and Military Families, the Bush Institute, and NVI. I encourage you to explore all these resources frequently as their sites update. The Bob Woodruff Foundation is currently incubating the National Veterans Intermediary to harness, support, and amplify the efforts of all stakeholders to improve outcomes for veterans within and across all communities. The intermediary represents both public and private sector interests across all issue areas. We have invited communities in every state to collaborate, and I'm excited that 80 communities across 33 states have committed to further collaboration in their communities. NVI offers 4 capabilities to stimulate change in their communities: ecosystem data, collaboration funding, learning and collaboration, and public-private collaboration. We are building to add value. We're fostering collective impact conditions within and across communities to improve national impact. Rather than compete or reinvent existing solutions, we aspire to catalyze change where it is needed and help fulfill those unmet needs. We always encourage collaboratives and CVEBs to establish a backbone organization because having that organizational structure in place supports all activities, and especially those related to procuring resources. The backbone becomes that de facto leader and manager of the process at every stage. Setting up a backbone will establish defined roles and responsibilities, even if they are initially on a volunteer basis. So whether you are the backbone organization in your community or hoping to be, it will pay off to collaborate on fundraising and resource aggregation. I'd like you to think if you are optimized for collaboration. Identifying contributors is much easier when you have a sense of those objectives. You have a way to measure outcomes. You have a schedule of activities planned, and you have a channel for ongoing communication. If you haven't yet established these norms within your community, you'll need them to identify possible contributors, to coordinate outreach, and also when collaborating with partners to successfully secure those contributions that you need. Again, the backbone organization can take responsibility for shepherding the members of a collaborative. Here's a summary of what I covered and a few things I've keep in mind. Cash is just one type of resource you will need to build a sustainable organization. Service providers shouldn't be the only active members. Bring in those other stakeholders to be a part of every step. The more you can show you're collaborating for impact, the easier it will be to attract funders and contributors. If you're already collaborating, you can deepen those commitments to build capacity. I'll finish with a plug for NVI because I'm passionate about our mission to support CVEBs like you. We have collaboration funding available immediately, but I want to stress you'll get so much more. Data, articles written for you, learning opportunities, organized convenings, online and in person, where you can share knowledge. We're planning more hands-on programming for the next year. Please take advantage of nvi.org, which is built for you, and sign up for our email list to get updates on more capabilities and tools as they roll out. We'll publish this slide deck on our blog section so you can download it and reference it. That concludes my presentation. Thank you again for everyone's time this afternoon, and I welcome any questions as long as the schedule allows.
Well, Deirdre, we appreciate the briefing. Again, we are trying to catch up with our schedule, and I apologize to everyone that we got off track a little bit. But again, everything that you provided for us, Deirdre, we will make sure that everyone is aware of and have a copy of your slide deck to move forward with.
Great.
So we do
Thank you so
thank you
much.
for your presentation.
Thank you, Deidre.